Yep. All right, let's lightly press
30 minutes.
Lightly press the got it button so my phone doesn't tip over. My camera on my laptop stopped working, guys. So doing this from my phone. So if I fall over or go black,
you know what? It is what it is.
Who knows? We don't know what's gonna happen. So
it is what it is.
We're
here.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Episode 114. We both just had to remind each other because
it's been a week.
It's been a week. It's been a week. I wonder how many more times we're gonna say that.
I think it's infinite at this point.
Infinite. Yeah, the number does not exist. 114. Today we are going to talk about, I don't really know how to package this in a nice way.
I would say how to manage our own emotions / our clients' emotions, or like the situation when we have clients that have differing views from our own, and it comes up in session.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that can be a whole gamut of things, right? I've seen it be a whole gamut of things in sessions. So it was just something that had come up earlier this week with a client of mine, and I was like, well, we could definitely talk about this.
Yeah, I think that we could go anywhere from religion to race to culture to
politics,
women's sexual rights, identity, women's rights, women's rights. So yeah, absolutely. I feel like I will say it is extremely challenging for me. Sorry, I didn't. Fuck you, Siri. It is extremely challenging for me to continue with clients where we don't have the same viewpoint. And I mean, in the sense of like, where it's, I don't know if extreme is the best, but like intense or something that we're passionate about, right? Like, so when the whole Roe v. Wade was overturned, it would have been extremely difficult for me to sit with somebody who doesn't think that abortion is healthcare and that a woman's access to that and that being blocked is a violation of just her civil rights. Like it's very hard for me. Like I don't get to put, and I don't think anybody else gets to put parameters on that. Well, I'm okay with it if it's like this. Well, it's not anybody's business of why somebody needs to do something like that. We have starving children in America. Like we're bordering a third world country, basically. Like we're on the border of becoming a third world country. Let me clarify, because so many people don't have access to healthcare. They don't have access to medical screenings. They don't have access to clean water. They don't have access to food. Like, why? I don't understand. I'm so confused as to why we would then continue. So I think that instance was something that came up that was really hard for me to show up for people in that area. I also think that just because I'm a therapist, my viewpoint is that I think that everybody is deserving of love and belonging, even if you do not agree, or if you've done egregious things, or if you are a different race or culture than me. That doesn't matter to me. Like I think everyone is deserving of love and belonging. And so when you have deep, hurtful or shameful things that have happened to you or that you have done, I don't think that I think me sitting there with you and exploring those things is healthy. And that's what I'm going to do. That's part of why I got into this. I do have to recognize my own bias, right? Like when I had first had Sophia, I think until she was like about 5, like that time period, I don't think that I could have helped somebody who maybe was a perpetrator of like child abuse, whether it was sexual or physical or any of those things. I think that would have been extremely hard for me. And it would have been hard for me to like garner empathy for them or attempt to hear their story, which as a therapist, we have to recognize our own bias. We have to recognize when we aren't going to be looking at this with a clear lens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things working at the hospital was after I became a mom and like having to put aggressive kids in holds that were trained to do, that was brutal because they would immediately scream for their mom. And I'm like, nah, I got to switch out. I can't, this is too, because I know that what we're doing is keeping the kids safe from themselves and from hurting other people. But like to hear a kid screaming for their mom because they're scared, that was
it was intense.
It was a lot. I think what's interesting is to really take a step back and think about the fact that like we may have a majority of our clients that have different views, but we may never know because those things don't come up in session, right? So like we're not judging a person based on that because we don't actually know. But when those views become apparent in session and you're kind of caught off guard, you're like, how did we match? How did you choose me? Right? So I am not a religious person. If you don't know that, there you go. I am not. So when I get somebody who, I joked about this when it happened, but when we were on BetterHelp and I got somebody who was seeking a Christian counselor, I was like, oh, you got the wrong one. It is not me. I don't know.
It ain't me.
Where you got that impression from, but it's not me. That is not to say that Christian counseling isn't a thing. It very much is a thing, but that's not me. So when I have a client who has these really, really strong religious beliefs that go against literally everything in my body and soul that I believe, it's a little bit uncomfortable. Where in a session, I had to be like, that's not true. Right. So, or that is not how I perceive things, that's not what I believe. Right. So for example, this person was talking about sexuality and how any other sexuality besides heterosexuality is a perversion. And I said, I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's true. Right. Or being interested in certain sexual things outside of just reproduction is a perversion. I don't think that's true. And so I'm having to constantly, we were like going back and forth where I'm like, I'm not trying to argue with this person because at the end of the day, it's not my job to change your mind either.
No, God,
you are not going to change my mind.
No.
About any of the things that you're talking about. And I'm not here to change your mind to say that you're wrong either. You can have that's fine.
Yes. And that's the thing. That is one thing that I need people to understand is coming from a standpoint of I have my beliefs and you have your beliefs and we can be separate and coexist at the same time. I can peacefully coexist with somebody if their beliefs are theirs and they stay over there and my beliefs are mine and I stay over here. That's okay. Like I in my heart and soul don't agree or believe what is happening is right or correct or whatever. However, like I have, again, like how we had that talk on the episode a couple weeks ago of like everything that's going on in the world, like I have to focus on what I have going on. I can't, there are some points in my life where I'm not going to be able to open up and look at all of the things going on and take that in and hold space for that. I have to just focus on mine and what I can do and reach the people that I can reach in the sense of making people who have the same viewpoints as me feel heard or understood or accepted or have a space for them, whatever that it is. Like, I'm not in the business of trying to change somebody's mind. And I'm going to respect that. And if you cannot respect how I think or feel, then what are we doing?
Then we're not a match.
I'm not sitting here, like there's thousands of therapists out there. So I'm just not going to be the one. I'm not, because what I'm not going to do is shit on somebody who's attempting to find themselves, attempting to step into the power of who they feel that they are, who they believe that they are, or what's going on. It is not my job to tell somebody else what is going on in their body. It's not. Body, mind, soul, any of those things. I can only offer as a therapist on the outside of like, hey, here's some, thought process about like maybe why you're feeling like this or why this emotion's coming up or why this emotion's coming up. But as it relates to like who they're identifying as, that is not my job. I'm just allowed to be a space there for you to feel safe to talk about that. It's not my job to be like, you're biologically a girl, so you're a girl, or you present as a man, so you're a man. Like, what?
Well, and the other aspect is if your beliefs are so strong that people are who they are when they are born, and you know that, and you are in the helping field, then you need to be aware of those biases and make sure that you don't treat people who are questioning certain things or who believe certain things and things like that, because like you're going to do more damage than good, and that's not appropriate.
Absolutely, especially with the younger people whose prefrontal cortex isn't developed yet. You're so impressionable. You're
Hmm.
so like I just think about my younger self and like what I thought and believed and the shit that I like is just not
Of
fucking
course.
true. And that just thinking about all the shit that was like on the outside of me.
Hmm.
So then if I'm coming to somebody with this internal belief of like how it relates to my soul and my personality and who I am and my identity, and they're like, no, you're wrong.
Hmm.
What a core wound of distrust in self.
Hmm.
Like that is going to take years to fucking undo as an adult, as a therapist is like if I would be viewing that or thinking about that, like that's gonna take years.
I've had plenty of trans people come to me and be like, yeah, my last therapist was like, I don't treat that. So I don't want to like they responsibly said, I don't treat that.
Yes,
I think we need to
yes.
refer you out, as opposed to trying to change this person's mind of
Ex-
who they identify as.
well, maybe it's a phase. What the fuck? What? Shut up.
I don't know.
I was
This shit's
having a conversation
exhausting.
with my client, a client that, had many clients who identify as trans, and some of my younger ones are talking, they're like, well, I know that this isn't a phase. Like, I'm not just saying this to say this. And I said, I validate that absolutely. And I say, and sometimes people are questioning. And
Hmm.
it is a point in their life that maybe they feel one way and then
Hmm.
choose that, later on that, that doesn't fit me as much. So
Yep.
even if we're not just not looking at that as a phase, like it's just that's exploration and that's okay.
Hmm.
Right. Of like, because I am always of the thought process, there's a function behind the behavior.
Hmm.
So there's something going on that needs to be talked about, worked through as it relates to identity. Not saying that somebody who identifies as trans has a deeper meaning thing that is going on. So that's what needs to be worked through. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in the sense of like kids who are angry and flip tables, right?
Sure.
It's so easy to get focused on that versus being like, well, where's the anchor coming from?
Hmm.
Where's the root? Or like suicidal clients where we have there's two camps. There's people who are really suicidal and people who say, oh,
Struggle
I'm
to
suicidal, and
verbalize.
I'm like,
Yeah.
right, just like to verbalize it. But in I still there's still a function behind that behavior.
Hmm.
So even though as a therapist, that aspect may be exhausting of like, I'm trying to save people with you, I'm trying to this, let's get to the root then. Let's talk about like what is creating this feeling of unsafe, unstable, what's going
Hmm.
on. So even if those people are in that moment where it's just sexuality or exploration is a part of their journey just for a finite
Yeah.
amount of time, we're still going to honor that. We're
Hmm.
still going to honor that. It's not my job to say, oh, that's a phase. No, 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 that's just what you needed in that moment to then start moving through to get to where you are.
Hmm.
And again, the journey is never done. The journey is done when you close your eyes and your heart stops and you cease to exist on this earth. That's when your journey is done.
Hmm.
So I think even just holding space for that of like, we don't get to say how you feel or what's going on or what you're experiencing. We're just a place to be able to offer that. But I think it's very important that we recognize our own biases, mental health professionals, and even in the sense of like the bias coming across, like if somebody is so deeply religious or so hardcore on one side and it's like so hardcore political or that's what they want to talk about, I am very upfront in the fact that this is not what I want to do as a therapist.
Hmm.
And so I'm not going to be able to be a great help to you in this.
Sure.
So I'm going to let you know right now that maybe it would be best if you found somebody who is more aligned with your beliefs,
Hmm.
right? And so I've had, well, what it's not about what you want to do as a therapist. It's my, these are my sessions. And I understand that. I'm not going to be effective for you though.
Correct.
Because like also it's a partnership. This is a relationship. Just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean that I'm a fucking catch-all. Doesn't mean you steamroll over me and it's
Hmm.
just like I'm supposed to do or say or whatever you fucking want me to do. No, like that'd be like going to your fucking MD for cancer. Like
Hmm.
you need a specialized person. Like the MD is working on a bunch of different things, but if you need to go to an oncologist if you're working through like so my specialty is trauma. That's what I like to work with. That doesn't mean that I can't do anxiety, depression, things like that. But like if you're coming to me about like religious, trauma and like you believe, blah blah blah. If it's not aligning, then I'm not going to be effective for you.
Sure.
And I would much rather say that in the beginning versus doing any type of damage that could occur from that.
Well, and I also think I can only say so many times, like, I understand that's your belief before I'm
Sure.
like, what are we doing at this point? Because I feel like
Yeah.
at sometimes they're still trying to change our minds, and like, that's not going to happen. So we can
Mhm.
either switch topics,
Mhm.
or we need to have a conversation about like what we're going to do going forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Because
think what
you
sucks is sometimes it gives you a different, or it can give you a different outlook on that person, right?
yeah.
Where it can like change
Yeah.
the way you see them. And that's also not fair to
Yeah.
them, and it's not fair to you.
Mhm.
Because if you can't get
Mhm.
past that, how are you going to be able to do work together?
Mhm. 100%. And it was the hardest when we were working at the hospital and having to work with kids who were in the LGBTQIA community and like helping them either come out to their parents if they wanted to, or navigate those conversations if they were already out and maybe the parents weren't on board, which that was really not a fun time
Mm-hmm.
because you just feel so helpless, right? Of like, I mean, I had to set so many limits with clients of like, well, there's so many limits with parents of like the client, your son or daughter, this teen, like that this is my client. So while I understand that you hold the insurance and whatever, I work for this client. So I'm
Correct.
advocating for them. So this is how the pronouns they want, and this is the name that they want to use. That's how I'm addressing them.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of parents were not happy about that, but like I refuse to be with you guys in being another person in this kid's life that's like, you don't know how you feel, you don't know what's going on, you don't know, because what's the harm, what's the
Mm-hmm.
like, in my mind it realistically is like, if you want to be called Joe, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you have different pronouns that you want to go by that make you feel comfortable, okay. How is that any different from somebody whose name is Patrick wanting to be called Pat because they don't like Patrick?
Sure.
Or wanting to be called, Sam instead of Samantha because they like Sam better. I don't like, how is that any different?
Mm-hmm.
So and I try to put myself in the position too of like, what would I do? If Sophia came to me and said like, oh, I think this or I feel this or whatever, but like that I made you.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't anything that you could do or say that like that wouldn't be accepted in my eyes.
Sure.
You're my child. Like I'm like you came out of me. I made you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to get to a point where you don't feel loved or
Mm-hmm.
supported. And I know that I'm not in control of that, but to the best of my ability, I can
Sure.
make sure that I'm showing up in a healthy way. I understand as parents on the opposite side that it may be very scary. It may be like it's unstable. You don't know, like whatever you're thinking or feeling in your mind, or just the fear in general of what people go through. We can work through that though.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't then have to be immediately turned into a projection of like, well, you can't be this then
Mm-hmm. I've also
because of
had
your
talks with
fear or
clients.
anger.
I've also had talks with clients lately who are so passionate about a certain cause, and they get like irate when it comes to people disagreeing with them. And I'm like, what is that doing for you though? Is it
Mhm.
doing anything for you to flip out on somebody who disagrees with your point of view? Well, I want to change the world. You're one person, homie. You're not going to change an entire country's mind about one thing because you feel passionate about it. I'm sorry, that's not how that works. Because you
Well,
want to start an argument with somebody.
and I feel like I look at it differently of like, can one person change the world? Sure, absolutely. What isn't going to happen though, it's not going to happen by you steamrolling over people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Historically, that has not went well for a lot of people. Maybe for a little bit, and then it's always not turned out, right? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you'll gain some traction and get people on your side of this viewpoint of like, because everybody who has been in history books believed that the way that they thought
Of
or whatever
course.
it was the right way. So like I understand that you feel passionately about this, but like again, what isn't going to help is you just steamrolling over people. You
Mm-hmm.
not allowing other people to have thoughts or feelings or whatever, and having a gentle approach. It's not, if somebody is like, well, you need to be Christian or you're a piece of shit.
Right.
I'm like, what? What? what are we talking about?
Mhm.
What the fuck? Like, I don't think that's how your God views that.
Mhm. Sure.
No, like, I'm pretty sure the basis of that is that love thy neighbor. Oh, I don't know. What? Whatever. Anyways, so I think the way that I handle it is I am very good about acknowledging my thoughts and viewpoints if a certain topic comes up and it's touched on for a
Mhm.
long time. I'm very good about staying silent about everything, right? Because I am supposed to be Switzerland. I'm supposed to be a
Sure.
neutral territory.
Yep.
And I think I am very good at that. Um, I mean, I think that there's acknowledgement of stuff that I'm just not going to do. Like, I don't work with substance abuse disorders. I don't really work with OCD and like hierarchies and stuff like that. But I think, or eating disorders, I think that's just acknowledging, though, that I have not had experience with
Correct.
treating that. And that I think that it would be unethical for me to be like, oh, yeah, I can do those things
Mhm.
because I know that I can't. So I think it's important to be like, shocker, it all comes back to mindfulness of like being aware of yourself, the thoughts that you have, the beliefs that you carry. And then if it is to come up, being able to say, like, this is where I'm at. If this is what you're looking for, then I'm not gonna be able to meet with you. I'm
Well,
not
and
going
check
to
in
be
like
able
your
to be
counter
your
transference of
therapist.
like, is this going to affect my relationship with this person? If it is, we
Yeah.
can't continue
Yes.
because it's not going to be
100%.
effective.
Mm-hmm. Which is the whole reason, like, even in the beginning of all of my sessions too, not that it relates to sexuality or race or anything like that, but why I say, like, I am an action therapist.
Mhm.
So there's going to be homework. I am going to ask you to do things. I'm going to ask you to listen to things. Like, there's a reason, like, I say that in the beginning so that we can come back and there isn't this fucking frustration on my part. We're 4 months down the road and you haven't done one piece of homework.
Mhm.
And it just turns into like, well, everything sucks and it's not working. And it's like, well, ah, this is the way that I do therapy.
Sure.
So I'm giving you the tools. And if you don't want to use those tools, that's fine. I'm just not going to be your therapist then.
Mhm.
Because this is the method that I believe wholeheartedly is the best.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not going to go shit on a different therapist who it does it differently, because that's the beauty of having so many different people with so many different ideas and opinions. It's going to work for somebody
Sure.
else. I don't think only my way is the right way. It's just the way that I believe.
Mhm.
So please check out other people
Sure.
to be able to get your needs met. I would much rather have somebody get something from therapy versus stay with me because you think that this
Correct.
is what it needs to be. No, I
Yep.
want you to get help.
Mhm.
So you can find us at Rewriting Her Story Podcast at, well, you can email us at gmail.com. You can find us at Rewriting Her Story Podcast on YouTube and Instagram. And then on Instagram, it is The Spooky Therapist. And then I am at BEAXO_11. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.